Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with Part 56, the Kabalah and Esoteric Christianity. Book 7, Some Christian Students of the Kabalah from the Doctrine and Literature of the Kabalah by Arthur Edward Waite. 19. The Kabalah and Esoteric Christianity. A discussion of the points of contact between Christianity and the mystical tradition of the Jews must not close without some reference to a scheme of mystical Christianity which obtained for a period a certain vogue in English occult circles and met with especial commendation from certain Kabalistic students. I refer to the new gospel of interpretation founded on illuminations received or believed to have been received by Anna Bonus Kingsford and developed since her decease, not perhaps always acceptably, by her collaborator and co-recipient Maitland, now also passed away. The textbooks of this movement were, firstly, a small collection containing the illuminations, and secondly, a formal treatise which, under the title of The Perfect Way, constituted a philosophical development and historical verification of the doctrines received by the seers. Mr. Cecil MacGregor Mathers dedicated his English translation of some of the Zoharistic books to the authors of this treatise on the ground that it was one of the most deeply occult works that has been written for centuries. The dedication also described it as an excellent and wonderful book, touching much on the doctrines of the Kabalah and laying great value upon its teachings. It was welcomed in terms of still higher appreciation by Baron Spedalieri of Marseille, the disciple of Eliphas Levi, who regarded it as in complete accord with all mystical traditions, and especially with the great mother of these, the Kabalah. In connection with this appreciation, the respectable French occultist observed A, that the Kabalistic tradition as we now possess it is far from genuine, and was much purer when it first emerged from the sanctuaries. B, that when William Postel and his brother Hermetists predicted that the literature containing the secret tradition of the Jews would become known and understood at the end of the era, they meant that it would be made the basis of a new illumination, reinstating that tradition in its purity. C, that this illumination and this restoration have been accomplished in the perfect way. He adds, in this book we find all that there is of truth in the Kabalah, supplemented by new intuitions such as present a body of doctrine at once complete, homogeneous, logical, and inexpugnable. Since the whole tradition thus finds itself recovered or restored to its original purity, the prophecies of Postel and his fellow Hermetists are accomplished. And I consider that from henceforth the study of the Kabalah will be but an object of curiosity and erudition, like that of Hebrew antiquities. If this be the case, the inquiry with which we have been occupied at such considerable length is only prolegomenary to the new gospel of interpretation, and our concluding words should be simply to direct the student who is in search of the true meaning of esoteric tradition to the doctrines contained in this last word of revelation. Indeed, such a course would seem at first sight the only one which could be followed. I must add, however, that the opinion expressed by Baron Spedalieri has produced no consequence, that the Kabalistic school of occultists in England has not followed the lead thus indicated and would not endorse the opinion, though committed to a certain extent in the same direction, while the new gospel of interpretation has taken no permanent hold on the occult thought of the time. It is still occasionally quoted with respect by writers who represent Kabbalism, and notably by Dr. Wynne Westcott, the translator of the Book of Formation. But this is the extent of its influence. I infer also that Baron Spedalieri's statement as to the adulteration of the genuine tradition in the Hebrew Kabbalah would not be traversed seriously, but for its recovery, occultists seem inclined to look backward towards Egypt, rather than to any form of supplementary revelation. I do not propose to recite here even the leading aspects of the system of esoteric Christianity developed in the perfect way, for the work is well known and its substance has been made accessible in many forms thanks to the untiring devotion of Mr. Edward Maitland. It does offer some conspicuous points of contact with the tradition of the Kabbalah, especially as to the dual nature of God or the divine feminine and the multiplicity of principles in the human system. But it would be easy to exaggerate their extent, as also, in some less conspicuous cases, their importance. The traceable references are few and superficial, We may find, for example, the Kabalistic doctrine of Ein Sof and his emanations in the statement that God unmanifest and abstract is the primordial mind, and the cosmic universe is the ideation of that mind, but it is not a far-reaching correspondence. So also the conception of macroprosopus reflected in microprosopus is thinly sketched by the following passage. In the Lord the formless assumes a form, the nameless a name, the infinite the definite, and these human. But although the Lord is God manifested as a man in and to the souls of those to whom the vision is vouchsafed, it is not as man in the exclusive sense of the term and masculine only, but as man both masculine and feminine. Microprosopus, it will be remembered, is androgen, at once man and woman, as is humanity itself. I should add that the new gospel maintained the divinity of the Kabbalah on the ground of the purity of its doctrine of correspondences, which shows that this famous compendium belongs to a period prior to that destruction by the priesthoods of the equilibrium of the sexes, which constituted in one sense the fall. With this statement of its divine origin may be brought into contrast the interpretation of the claim made by the Kabbalah as to the manner of its delivery. When it is said that these scriptures were delivered by God, first of all to Adam in paradise and then to Moses on Sinai, it is meant that the doctrine contained in them is that which man always discerns when he succeeds in attaining to that inner and celestial region of his nature, where he is taught directly of his own divine spirit and knows even as he is known. As the perfect way and its connections assume to be the outcome of a similar quality of discernment, it follows, of course, that it is a recovery of the doctrine commonly called the gnosis and variously entitled hermetic and Kabalistic. I should add that many thoughtful persons have found in the perfect way a fountain of light, interpretative and reconciliatory, that much of its interpretation indicates a rare quality of genius. Yet it was not free at the beginning from the fantastic element, and it depends to some extent on philological arguments which are more than fantastic. Also, at the close of Mr. Maitland's life, he wrote much, which must have been regretted by his friends, bringing his earlier work into discredit by exaggerated claims concerning it. Taking it as a whole, the perfect way cannot, I think, be regarded as a master key to the Kabbalah, or as anything indeed but a series of suggestions and glimpses concerning the hidden sense of many sacred scriptures, the full unfolding of which will not perhaps be accomplished even in the 20th century. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.